Imagine a world where the line between life and death is as thin as a blade of grass, where hope can be found in the most unexpected places, and where the bond between humans and animals transcends all boundaries. This is the story of one elephant's incredible journey from the brink of death to a triumphant return to the wild. In the heart of South Africa's Addo Elephant National Park, the dry season pressed down like a relentless curse. The land, cracked and parched, stretched endlessly under the searing sun. Shallow pools of muddy water were the last fragile lifelines in this unforgiving wilderness. Dust swirled in the air, and the wind carried the acrid scent of earth that had not felt rain for far too long. Among the herds that roamed the plains, one mature elephant struggled against an invisible enemy. His name was not known to men, but his body carried the story of pain. His right front foot was swollen, inflamed, and covered by a large abscess. The red, throbbing wound made every step torture. Where once he had walked proudly among his kin, he now lagged behind. Hunger gnawed at him. Thirst tormented him. Slowly, he drifted further and further from the herd, until at last he was a lone and abandoned figure in the barren wilderness. His eyes drooped with sorrow, his ears hung heavy, and every breath seemed to echo with despair. At last he came to rest near a shallow puddle, dipping his trunk occasionally to take in small, precious sips. A hot wind swept over him, wrapping around his massive but weakened body, as if nature itself conspired to test his will. Hope of finding his herd again flickered faintly, then dimmed. But nature is a place of both cruelty and unexpected mercy. One morning, as the elephant lay beside the shrinking pool, a black bird with a long curved beak landed near his injured foot. The bird tilted its head curiously, studying the swelling with careful eyes. It hopped closer, cocked its head once more, and then, without hesitation, pecked sharply at the abscess. The skin split open with a sudden burst, and yellow pus spilled onto the dusty ground. The elephant flinched, startled by the sharp pain. Yet almost instantly, relief washed through his body. The suffocating pressure inside the wound lessened. He shifted his weight, testing his foot. The pain was still present, dull and deep, but it was no longer unbearable. The bird continued its work, pecking 2 or 3 more times to let out more fluid. Then, satisfied, it fluttered its wings and chirped softly before flying away into the golden sky. The elephant raised his trunk in a slow wave of gratitude, watching his unlikely savior disappear into the horizon. That night, he rested longer than he had in weeks, daring to hope that he might recover. But the next days proved crueler still. The wound, though briefly relieved, began to swell again. Infection set in, the flesh reddening and rotting. A foul stench rose as pus oozed steadily from the abscess.
Ow.
The elephant's strength ebbed away. He lay down more often, unable to rise for long, unable to find food, reduced to sipping what little remained of the puddle. His breaths grew shallow and rapid, his body thin and frail beneath the vast African sun. Flies swarmed mercilessly over the wound. He flapped his ears to chase them away, but his effort was weak, almost futile. The water in the puddle dwindled until only a thin film of mud remained. He was no longer a proud giant of the savannah, but a broken creature lying in the dust, waiting silently for either death or a miracle. That miracle came at dawn, as the first rays of sunlight stretched across the plains as 2 rangers, Elias Nkosi and Jonah Delimini, set out to patrol the water sources. Their sharp eyes caught sight of a gray mass lying still by the water's edge. "Jonah," Elias murmured, shading his eyes. "Do you see that?" They moved closer. What they found took their breath away. A mature bull elephant collapsed, eyes glazed with pain, his foot grotesquely swollen. Elias knelt beside the giant, placing his palm on its trunk. The rough skin twitched faintly at his touch. He felt the slow, labored breaths and the tremor of life clinging stubbornly. Jonah, realizing the gravity of the situation, grabbed his radio and called for emergency backup. "We need the rescue team. Elephant injured. Critical condition. Send the vet now." The rangers worked quickly. Jonah fetched clean water from their patrol canisters, pouring it carefully into the elephant's trunk. The animal stirred faintly, managing to sip the precious liquid. Elias gently stroked its skin, speaking soft words of reassurance, his deep voice carrying warmth. Soon, the distant hum of a specialized vehicle broke the silence. The rescue team arrived with ropes, tarps, and equipment. Together, men and machine worked in harmony to lift the weakened elephant onto the transport. Jonah stayed close to its head, monitoring each breath, whispering encouragement as though the animal could understand. At the station, the veterinarian, Dr. Miriam Kumalo, was already waiting. She quickly examined the wound. Relief swept over her when she discovered the infection had not yet penetrated the bone. There was still hope. The medical team moved fast. They flushed the wound, drained the pus, and carefully cut away the dead tissue. Sterile gauze was wrapped around the injured foot, and the elephant was given strong antibiotics and painkillers. For the first time in weeks, true relief seeped into his body. A barn had been prepared, lined with dry straw and shaded from the relentless sun. Fresh hay was piled high, and a large tank of clean water was placed within easy reach. Here the elephant would begin his fight back to life. Day and night the staff cared for him. Bandages were changed, temperatures checked, water offered, and food replenished. Slowly the giant began to recover. By the third day the swelling had lessened and the foul smell was gone. His eyes, once dull and hopeless, now gleamed faintly with determination. Elias and Jonah visited him daily. On the seventh day, he managed to stand for the first time, swaying but steady. The rangers watched with tears in their eyes as he reached for hay with his trunk, chewing slowly but steadily. Each day his steps grew stronger, his ears flapped with renewed energy, and his skin regained its healthy sheen. Dr. Kumalo prescribed fruits and vegetables to help him regain strength faster. Jonah often led him into a small yard each morning for sun and gentle exercise. A hose sprayed cool water over his back, and the elephant lifted his trunk, letting out a soft rumble of pleasure. Weeks passed. Flies no longer swarmed his wound. The bandages grew cleaner each time they were changed. His body filled out again, the bones no longer sharp against his skin. And then, one morning, exactly a month after his rescue, Dr. Kumalo declared the words everyone longed to hear. He's healed. He can go back. Preparations were made to return him to the wild. A special vehicle was brought, and Elias and Jonah guided the elephant up the wooden ramp. He moved slowly, but there was pride in his step again. On the journey back, he kept extending his trunk out of the vehicle, tasting the wind, breathing the sense of home. When the doors opened at last, the African plains stretched before him, golden in the afternoon sun. He stepped down carefully, his trunk sweeping the ground as if blessing the earth. The light caught the folds of his skin, making them glow like burnished bronze. He paused, raised his trunk high, and let out a deep, resonant call, a roar of gratitude and freedom. Elias and Jonah stood still, hearts swelling with quiet pride. They knew this was more than saving one elephant. It was preserving the wild itself, honoring the bond between humans and animals. The elephant walked on, leaving deep, steady footprints in the soft ground. From above, a flock of black birds appeared, circling as though guiding him back to his destiny. In the distance, shapes began to emerge. Other elephants, moving slowly across the horizon. The giant stopped, lifted his trunk once more, and then quickened his pace. Calls echoed across the plains as the herd recognized one of their own returning. The loneliness that had haunted him vanished in that instant. He was no longer an outcast, but a son of the savannah, reunited with family. Elias and Jonah watched until his figure faded into the golden grass, swallowed by the herd. Their faces carried the quiet joy of men who had given life back to the wild. As the sun sank, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, they returned to the station. The story of the elephant and his bird companion would be told again and again around campfires, in ranger outposts, and perhaps in the whispered wind across the plains. For in that wilderness, one elephant had found freedom once more, not through chance alone, but through the kindness of both bird and man. And somewhere in the heart of Addo, the herd's rumbling calls carried a silent promise. The bond between nature and humanity endures, as long as there are those willing to protect it.